consumer demand that had fallen like a stone is feebly better, and consumer confidence is still low. It has raised questions if this is a temporary spike propped up by stimulus packages and some inventory buildups. This, as some argue very strongly, is damp wood being ignited by stimulus lighters, and these may soon run out. The overall take from this is an argument whether this is a V-shaped or a W-shaped recovery, where we may see recession setting in again. But whatever it may be, there is consensus that consumer demand may not return to previous levels for a long time. And here lies the challenge: what does one do? Particularly where corporate had expanded in the heady days with larger production footprints, only to find the capacities, organizations, and cost base which are looking quite oversized. And therefore, generating cash is really a struggle today. In the financial sector, banks, a lot of banks overseas have disappeared overnight, and those which do exist are now very wary to lend, again, bitten by the reckless lending and greed of the past. Ladies and gentlemen, I see, therefore, by all counts, going forward, a very different world. This is, however, both a challenge and an opportunity. We are likely to see a shift from a unipolar fulcrum of the economic platform to a one that is supported by many in the shape of new economic centers emerging in different parts of the world, where I believe Asia will feature very prominently. We in Pakistan cannot remain immune, even more so because our issues are compounded by our own domestic issues. However, every crisis has an opportunity, and the question is, are we ready to catch the next wave? I believe there is opportunity for those who are committed to the principles of governance and sustainability. Corporates with sound leadership, strong governance culture, sound leadership, people talent, are more likely to emerge from this crisis stronger and better equipped to take advantages of growth opportunities, either organically through acquisitions or new ventures. This seminar could not have come at a more appropriate time to hear the views of experts and exchange views. MAP, as you know, has a history of over 4 decades and has been in the forefront of advocating good practices. Today, as you know, we have a strong and an impressive set of panelists and speakers, and I'm sure you will find this event enriching. And as I conclude, I must place my gratitude to our chief guest, the international delegates and panelists who have taken time to be amongst us and share their thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Waqar. Our chief guest and keynote speaker this morning is our friend Dr. Hafiz Pasha. And Hafiz is always a difficult man to introduce because his CV runs into many pages. So I have with me a 3-page CV, but in the interest of time, I had his secretary develop a 1-page CV so we could save time. But he's a man of many accomplishments, and I'll briefly introduce him to you. Dr. Hafiz Pasha is the Dean of the School of Social Sciences at the Beacon House National University, Lahore, and Vice Chairman of the Institute of Public Policy, Lahore. He is currently serving as chairman of the advisory panel of economists to the Planning Commission and convener of the Economic Advisory Council of the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He is chairman of the Tax Advisory Council of the FBR and member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the State Bank of Pakistan. From 2001 to 2007, Dr. Pasha was UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of the Regional Bureau of Asia and Pacific of UNDP. Earlier, Dr. Pasha held a number of important public appointments. He served as the Federal Commerce Minister, Federal Minister for Finance and Economic Affairs, Deputy Chairman, Federal Minister for Planning Commission, and Education Minister in 3 governments. Prior to this, he was the Vice Chancellor, President of the Karachi University, and Dean and Director of the Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. Pasha has an MA from Cambridge University, UK, and PhD from Stanford University, USA. He was awarded in 2005 the Congressional Medal of Achievements by the Philippines government. I present Dr. Hafiz Pasha.
Mr. Razak Dawood, Mr. Waqar Malik, Mr. Basrai, Mr. Farooq Hassan, Governor Shahid Hamid, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by asking the basic question. Is Pakistan's economy emerging from the recession, and therefore can we focus on post-recessionary challenges? Are we in the process of recovery that we see in the rest of the global economy? Because, as Waqar has highlighted, there are clearly a number of domestic factors which are operating against a rapid recovery. If the answer to this is that at this point in time we are seeing mixed signals, there are some initial indications of recovery, but we still find ourselves with some negative indicators, then when is the economy likely to recover? And what can businesses do to prepare themselves for the post-recessionary challenges? That is the basic issue that I'd like to take up today. So my focus is going to be predominantly on Pakistan and the implications of developments for business over the next few years. At the very outset, I think it is very important for us to realize that given the state of ongoing military operations in the north of Pakistan and the virtually daily incidents nowadays of major acts of terrorism, we have to recognize the fact that we are effectively, as a nation, in a state of war. And clearly, at this time, we cannot continue with business as usual. Now, some might argue that when a nation is in a state of war, there is actually a kind of a stimulus that is provided through the war economy to economic activity. But that happens only for selected activities. And in our case, my own feeling is that the war economy and the impact it has inevitably on people's confidence and behavior actually restrains the process of growth, at least for the time being. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the backdrop. The state of war that we are in comes after, if you like, a kind of the perfect storm that we saw over the last 2 years or so. The first was the commodity price shock, the precipitous increase in the oil price, and the phenomenal jump in Pakistan's oil import bill. This was a big shock. It affected our balance of payments, our reserves were depleted, inflation rose.